That night, I almost told my son the truth. My hands were shaking. The documents were right there in front of me, and one sentence, just one, could have changed everything. But then I heard his wife's voice from the other room. "And if your family can't give us a better life, then what's the point?" I froze, because at that moment I realized something terrifying. If I revealed the $14 million now, I might not just change their lives. I might lose my son forever. So I made a choice. I folded the truth, locked it away, and decided to test something far more dangerous than poverty. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Epic Stories Where Silence Speaks. My name is Kai, and I am 63 years old. At my age, you learn that silence can be louder than any argument, and secrets, no matter how carefully buried, have a way of finding the light. The day my son got married should have been one of the happiest days of my life, and in many ways it was. The hall was glowing with golden lights, laughter echoed in every corner, and my son, my only son, stood there as a groom, proud and smiling, ready to start a new chapter. But while everyone celebrated, I carried something heavy in my chest. A secret. Just 3 months before that wedding, my wife passed away. Her name was Hina, and losing her felt like losing half my soul. We had spent 38 years together, built a home from nothing, raised a son, shared struggles, laughter, tears, and dreams that only the two of us understood. She wasn't just my wife, she was my partner in every sense. When she died, the house felt empty in a way I cannot fully explain. But that wasn't the only thing she left behind. A week after her passing, I was called by a lawyer. I assumed it was about some routine paperwork. Instead, I walked into an office and walked out with news that shook me. Hina had inherited a fortune from a distant relative years ago, something she had never fully discussed with me. Over time, she invested wisely, quietly, carefully. When everything was calculated, the total came to $14 million. $14 million. I remember sitting there, unable to speak. My hands were trembling, not because of the money, but because I realized how much she had carried silently. And more importantly, why she had never told anyone. The lawyer handed me the documents and said, "Mr. Kai, your wife wanted you to decide what to do with this. There were no conditions." No conditions. But I knew my wife. She didn't leave conditions, she left trust. And that's when I made a decision that would change everything. I told no one. Not my relatives. Not my friends. And most importantly, not my son. My son, Asen, had always been a good boy, not perfect, but kind-hearted, respectful, and ambitious. He had recently started a small business and was working hard to build his life. When he told me he wanted to get married, I supported him completely. The girl he chose, Sana, came from a decent family. She was educated, confident, and seemed caring, at least at first. The wedding preparations began, and I noticed something slowly changing. Not in my son, but in her. Sana had a certain way of talking about money. It wasn't obvious at first, just small comments. Simple weddings are fine, but a little luxury shows respect. People judge based on how well you present yourself. These days, financial stability matters more than anything. I listened quietly. Then one day, she said something that stayed with me. "Uncle, honestly speaking, I wouldn't feel comfortable living in an old house. I believe a couple should start their life in a fresh, modern environment." She smiled when she said it, but her eyes didn't. That was the moment I became certain. If I revealed the truth about the money now, it wouldn't bring happiness. It would bring expectations. And expectations can destroy relationships faster than poverty ever could. So I stayed silent. After the wedding, Asen and Sana moved into our home. Yes, it was old. Yes, it needed repairs. but it was filled with memories, memories that mattered more to me than marble floors or modern designs. At first, everything seemed fine. But slowly, things began to change. Sana started making comments more openly. The kitchen is too small. The furniture looks outdated. We should renovate everything. Asen tried to balance things. He would gently explain that money was tight and they needed time. But Sana wasn't patient. And then came the real test. One evening, I overheard their conversation. "We can't live like this forever," Sana said, her voice sharp. "We're trying, Sana," Asen replied calmly. "I'm working day and night." "Trying isn't enough. Other people our age are living better. You need to think bigger." There was a pause. Then she said something that hit me deeply. "Sometimes I feel like your family just is capable." I stood outside the door, my heart heavy. Not because of what she said, but because I realized something important. Money wouldn't fix this. Character would. Months passed. Tension in the house grew. Sana became more distant from me. Respect turned into cold formality. Sometimes it felt like I was a burden in my own home. Asen, on the other hand, was changing too, but in a different way. He was becoming quieter. Tired. Stressed. One night he came to my room. "Abu," he said softly, sitting beside me. "Yes, Beta. I feel like I'm failing." I looked at him carefully. "Why would you say that?" He sighed. "I can't give Sana the life she wants. I'm trying, but it's not enough." For a moment, I almost told him everything. About the money. About the fortune sitting quietly, waiting. But I didn't. Instead, I placed my hand on his shoulder and said, "Beta, a man is not measured by how much money he has, but by how he stands when things are difficult." He looked at me, eyes slightly wet. "I just don't want to lose my family." "You won't," I said gently, "as long as you stay true to yourself." Another year passed. And then everything changed. One afternoon, I slipped in the bathroom and fell. It wasn't serious, but it shook me. For the first time, I felt my age. I realized I wouldn't be here forever. And that made me think. What was I waiting for? What was the right moment? Would there ever be a perfect time to reveal the truth? That night, I called both Asen and Sana into the living room. They sat across from me, confused. "I need to tell you something," I said calmly. They exchanged glances. "Before your wedding, your mother left something behind." Asen's face softened. "Her memories are enough, Abu." I nodded slowly. "She left more than that." I took out the documents and placed them on the table. For years she had investments, and after everything was settled. I paused. "There is $14 million. Silence. Absolute silence. Asen stared at me, unable to process. Sana's eyes widened. "You're joking," she whispered. I shook my head. "It's real." The room felt different suddenly. Heavy. Charged. And then I said the most important part. "I didn't tell you earlier because I wanted to see something." Asen looked at me. "See what?" I looked at both of them. "I wanted to see who you are without money." Tears filled Asen's eyes. Sana looked down. "I have watched everything," I continued. "The struggles, the arguments, the words." I turned to Sana. "Beta, money can build a house, but it cannot build respect." She couldn't meet my eyes. "I am not angry," I said gently, "but I needed to know that this wealth wouldn't destroy what little we have." Asen stood up suddenly and hugged me tightly. "I don't care about the money, Abu. I just wish you trusted me." "I do," I whispered. "That's why I waited." In the weeks that followed, things changed. But not in the way you might expect. Yes, we renovated the house. Yes, life became more comfortable. But the biggest change wasn't in the walls. It was in the hearts. Sana became quieter, more thoughtful. One day, she came to me with tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she said, "for everything." I smiled gently. Growth begins with realization. She nodded, and for the first time, her respect felt real. Not forced, not dependent on wealth, but genuine. Now, as I sit here at 63, I often think about that decision. Was it right to hide the truth? Maybe. Maybe not. But it revealed something far more valuable than money ever could. It revealed people, their patience, their character, their true selves. Moral of the story: wealth does not define relationships, character does. Money can attract people, but only integrity and patience can keep them. Sometimes, hiding what you have reveals what others truly are.